Hey everybody, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm on a different camera in a different spot, coming live to you for your Patron stream. I really want to thank you guys for supporting us and helping us do stuff. And obviously, as you can see, when you're on the backside, is we have to replace a lot of technology more often than you would think. This stuff is, I guess they decided to make it very perishable or something. So, that's a thing that we deal with all the time. This is part one of her peonies, which is going to be at least 4 parts this month. It may be 5 to complete. I'm doing this on a round canvas. In your newsletter, I gave you a reference of it in a square, so you could do it on an 8x8. If you didn't want to do a round, that would be completely okay. And of course, the usual methods that we have of taking a round shape and putting on a square canvas would work. I'm really excited about this one because it's one I wanted to paint a long time, like 2 years. I have had this image and thought it was going to be an acrylic April image or a long Sunday image for like 2 years. So you guys get it, and I'm ready to just jump on it.
Okay.
On the mic is John. He fixed everything, and I'm looking into a big giant Panasonic.
You are.
It's really weird. It's like kind of surreal because my face is there, but I'm looking here, and it's just...
I got to move it.
I feel like I would be like turned to the side. And also I feel like this camera's way too high definition for what I would want.
Well, those are, you know what we need to do.
So this is what we're painting here. You guys have yours to print out. And I will be doing a couple copies of this one where I blow it up and one where, it's full screen. I'm going to put out a bunch of black. We're going to be starting with that, and I'm going to put out some gesso. What are you saying, baby?
Nothing. I'm thinking. So
you're thinking?
I'm thinking what I want to do is
the company and yell at them for running the stream.
Well, okay. So there's something called cable fatigue. And
These cables get fatigued really fast.
They do.
They're like, I can't go anymore.
They get saggy under their own weight.
I'm only good for one Coachella. I can't do 2.
No. And
they're very, very moody, these cables.
Well, 3G SDI cables start at about like $2 a foot, and they only last about a year.
Oh, they're so fun.
But
they're my favorite.
You can re-end them now, I hear. So I've got a new machine to try that with. But
I'm just going to try to re-end a cable. I don't even know what that means, guys, to be super honest. So, all right. I'm going to take a big brush. I'm going to dip it in water. It's kind of blown out right now. I need to reshape it, but for this, it'll be great. I've got some gesso. Yes, it's Liquitex gesso. Liquitex gesso is okay. It's not my favorite. My favorite is Holbein, but it's very cheap and available often. So I'm going to get it, and I'm going to mix some of my black initially into the gesso, and then I'm going to go over the background with pure black. So this is the wood round I demoed the other day. I really liked it. I've been pretty happy with it. The only thing I would say is they cut them just shy of 12 inches, so I think it's going to be a challenge framing. But as I understand, that's Linda's problem now. She's going to be adopting this, or at least making sure it finds a space on the wall. I'm just sealing the wood. Now, this ended up being kind of surprising to me because usually wood is so thirsty that you have to do like a GAC 100, GAC 100 to seal it, and then you do the gesso over it. But this has been decent painting. Not like perfect painting, but decent painting. I can do all the techniques. And they're nice cut circles, and they were super economical. And wood has a very long history as being a surface in art. Artists have painted on wood panels for a long time. Actually, the cotton was, just an alternative to the usual wood panels. The very expensive paper. So expensive. Not now.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
used to be.
The wood panels have also improved greatly because it would be that, you could get a planed wood surface pretty cheaply for the last 1,000 years. That's pretty much...
That's as long as the Sahara has been dropping dust on the Amazon basin. Fun fact.
Okay. But
I've been watching Connections. All right, I'm going to try this.
You do that. So, all right, guys. It's nice to see you guys out here hanging out with us, being in the patronage, hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Love seeing you guys out here. So thank you for being part of our community. For all of you guys watching this on the playback, we appreciate you helping make making what we do possible is a gift, and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate what you guys do for us, how we're able to do all this crazy camera stuff, how I have to chase down connections right before a live show. Nothing makes me happier than having to do that for you guys. So thank you.
Hot.
You're hot.
Well, I'm not hot, but the hairdryer's hot. All right. So, welcome everybody to your first Power Patron live stream. We're a little groovier here. We're a little more relaxed. We don't usually have this many technical issues.
No.
If this is your first time getting to come into a Power Patron live stream, give us a thumbs up and let us know that, this is your first time here. For everybody who was here for Green World and has come back, you guys have helped me work out all the Zoom problems. You guys have helped me do so much stuff in this level of patronage, and I really appreciate it. I should call you guys the patient patrons instead of the most patient patrons. Because, boy, we do some weird stuff. We do some deep experimentation here. I'm going to get my black paint and then just go through and paint this whole surface black. Couple coats. And I think that's going to be my prep for the wood. I didn't pre-prep this because I have that freedom here in this patronage to not have to worry about timescapes or any of that, but just making sure you guys need to see what you're going to see. And honestly, since we're waiting to get our Red Queen going again, it's nice to have some nice deep dives to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys will see Green World's going to start releasing this month to the patronage down from you guys. So you'll be well into your peonies, just when they find out, oh my gosh, there's a lot of green in that painting, which you guys are in. Now, when we do the Zoom this month, which I'm going to schedule at the end of the month, you guys are still welcome, of course, to not only bring an original art piece, but you could do that. Just remember to submit any, if you want to have some feedback during our Zoom event at the end of the month. It's first come, first serve, because I can only do so many in a Zoom. You would want to send a good picture of your painting and then a very clear, specific question that you have about what you're working on. And then I will look at it and give you some personal advice. That can be kind of nice. But, you may be shy. You may be shy. And if you'd like your painting to be reviewed anonymously, it was pointed out to me by a very sweet, insightful person that for some people that very public conversation could be overwhelming. And so I was like, well, how could we resolve that for our patrons? And I was like, oh, well, if you'd like to be anonymous, we'll just call you anonymous. We won't say who it is, and I'll still give the feedback. So you can get it either way, and it's all good. Let's dry this again. And then we'll do the final coat of black.
Okay.
And that's how I'm prepping the wood. Oh my goodness, what is this caught on? Everything.
So while she's catching the cable on things, look at that. She can spin dry. It's the new thing. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us on what is today? It's 9/3/2020. My computer says, what is that? It's a Thursday. A Thursday. Thursdays are good days, I think, generally speaking. Pretty close to the weekend. A lot of the week's done. Still got a day to get some stuff done. That was how I thought about it in the before time. But now that we're all just at home all the time, weeks just sort of blend one from the other into the one. So, But that was sort of the way it was before anyway. Wax philosophical.
Questions about the heat.
The heat.
The heat. So here, okay, I'm going to give you some kind of stuff. So with craft paints, for sure, and cheap paints, that heat is a big deal. With pro paints, it's not as big of a deal. But the thing is John and I always have to err to all of the unexpecteds. Mm-hmm. And in best practices, you wouldn't use your heat on your hairdryer. You do cool dry or natural dry because you don't want to, run it out of its temperature, right? Because acrylic paint has an ideal temperature, and if it's warm, it becomes soft, and there's all these things. And it's real funny because we were talking to the guys over at Golden, and they're like, heat's not ideal, but it's not that bad. And I was like, guys, heat's not that bad with your paint, but not everybody uses your paint. I know you feel that they should. But oftentimes they have other paints they use. And so if they're going to use some of these other brands that aren't, preparing their paint for extreme temperature variances, then I've got to warn them that there can be color shift. To be real honest, though, color shift on black paint would not be that big of a deal. Like, oh, it got darker. Is that relevant to the conversation, or did I just answer a question that was not even asked?
No, you always answer the unasked question. It was there waiting to be answered. That's your job. It's the Sherpa.
I don't even know what you mean anymore. I have some good news, guys. Here's something you guys get as patrons that I wouldn't talk to maybe necessarily on YouTube about, like, in this way. So I've been under attack for a while from a criminal organization on Facebook. And apparently I super hurt their feelings. They've been kind of feeling a certain kind of way about it. And so besides the fact that they have managed to steal the identity of a couple community members, and so they made some money, I also said that they were bad people and what they were doing was a waste of life and what they should be doing with their creativity and time, which I still think, by the way. I think if you're smart enough to run a criminal scheme, you're smart enough to do a startup business and make something of yourself. So it's just a feeling that I have, but I'm not in charge of anybody, so I'm allowed to have it.
All right. So I have an art question then.
Okay.
I'm
going to finish that story, though, so don't let me forget. Because I have update news on the trolling.
Not to derant you.
I'm not deranting. I'm filling them in. They were talking about the trolls while you were having your meltdown back there.
I'm not deranting you. I'm just saying they got a question.
All right. I will answer the art question and back to troll talk.
Okay. So
troll
talk. So if you had Fabriano black paper or like a black canvas pre-surfaced, would those work as well for this?
Perfectly.
Okay.
You could use black gesso. If I had any of my Holbein black gesso here, I would have used that as my preference over this. But this will be fine, and it will still be a gorgeous painting, and I'm not that worried about the result in that way. Like, sometimes I'll have a preference of a material or a product, but then I'm like, is it really that big of a deal? And then I'm like, it isn't. Let's try this again, and then I'll finish troll talk.
Okay. So far, if you're just joining us, to recap, you need a smoothish surface, painted blackish, that you can get a circle-like object in the middle of if you like it that way. So, if you had a square canvas and you had to paint a circle in it, or you didn't paint a circle in it, and you just painted the whole thing black, you'd probably be okay. And if you didn't have a square one and you did it on a rectangle one, that'd probably be okay too. So, none of these decisions are probably going to blow the entire work. It's just kind of a creative decision throughout that. So, take it as it goes. You're going to need a smoothish, blackish surface for the next part of this. Is that right?
What?
You're going to need a smoothish, blackish surface for the next part. Round is good. If it's square, it's good.
Smoothish, blackish surface, yes.
If it's rectangle, it's good. But just,
Okay. Kelly asked about the Zoom feedback sessions. Is this any advice or on any particular painting or any Sherpa paintings? Let me broaden that. This is art consulting. So if you need a consultation on an original painting, if you need a consultation on a portfolio or getting into a show or just something about your art experience, you can send that in as well. I just have limited time, so I can't take everything that comes in, and it's first come, first serve. You just write support@theartsherpa.com and let us know it's for the Patron Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have a question about art, your art career, your art process, just something that's happening in your art life, if you're asking for feedback on a painting, I need a good, clear picture of the painting and whatever it is, a good, clear statement on what you're working on. It's never a good idea to ask me, is this good or is this bad? Like, if you have that question, I would encourage you to reframe it and is there anything I can do to strengthen the painting or resolve it more? And that way you're not putting it in the context of good and bad, because that's not what art is. Art isn't good or bad. In that way, it is not those things. I know I have a chalk tool because I saw the thing earlier and it's over here by my lipstick, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
It's because the eraser got put down. All right, so we got our Dritz chalk tool and we have our reference. Now, in this particular case, I'm going to just, there's a weird radial grid. I did not want to do it for that. I was not up for that this week. So I'm going to kind of just work this out as if I were just in my own studio, which I am, but with you. Oh, Troll Talk. Let me finish Troll Talk. Because there's an update and it's exciting.
Lest we be left hanging.
Right. And it's an exciting update. So as you know, I've been targeted because I told the trolls that they were poopy, poopy, poopy heads. On top of that, I'm a little good at my Facebook. So I immediately started putting in trademark reports and copyright reports. And I have everything I do registered. Like, I can be super mean if I need to be. Mm-hmm. And so I started just dropping reports as fast as I was finding stuff. Plus, I was finding the pages that they were making to look like me almost as fast as they were putting them out. And I do reverse image search. So I was coming after them pretty hardcore. And then they decided to teach me a lesson and they came after me pretty hardcore. But what they don't know is that I have a channel manager on Facebook. So I don't just have to report into that terrible report vacuum that Facebook has. I have other options. And so I told my channel manager what was going on. And at first she was like helping me out, getting these accounts taken down and getting stuff resolved. But pretty soon she realized, because she went on vacation when the really bad one hit. And I was writing her going, they've hacked my account. They're in my events. And that's when I realized that they were duplicating my events, making them look like lookalikes. And they fooled somebody that has watched me for like 7 years. Mm-hmm. That's how good it was. So I was writing her and sending screenshots and sending links. And she was like, she got back from vacation and was like, ooh, holy moly, and immediately escalated me up Facebook. And it turns out that Facebook has a concierge service, because I just got an email from the concierge service and they're like, do you really feel like you're having an impersonation problem? And I'm like, I've been doing this all week. But anyway, so now we've kicked it up into a higher echelon of Facebook, and I sent them a bunch of screenshots. And like, I have months of screenshots. I have hundreds of screenshots of this nonsense. So hopefully what's going to happen is people high enough in Facebook that have power to fix things will start looking at this problem early, and we may have stopped a whole con before it even got its toehold into Facebook. Don't mess with the Sherpa.
Don't do it.
Yeah. I'm pretty much live and let live until you come for me. And then I'm like, we're doing this? Okay. Good to know. So I have here a nice little diagonal line that I've got to represent across the bottom of my canvas. And it's this really cool kind of interesting angle. So I'm going to use my T-square, I think, to give me that angle. And I'll look at it overhead so I can make sure that I'm getting that sense of the angle of the grate going off. And I'm going to look and see if I feel like I've angled too much of the surface, and I think that I have. So I'm going to bring it down a good bit, because I really only want black on some of it. All right. There we go. That's pretty nice. Now let's look at, see, that's too level, and I don't want to be level. It's very hard to not make a level line across your circle. It's like the line just wants to be level. You know what I'm saying?
Some days I do.
Some days, you know what I'm saying? All right. So if I keep it here, I should be able to keep it at the angle that I need. And I don't think I have too much space. And I'm going to start to sketch in my glass bottle. And again, this is that Dritz chalk tool. Right? So I'm going to just look at my reference and kind of generally get that in and then make adjustments as I'm going. You have a traceable if you would not enjoy this process. I think sometimes it's nice to do this because it keeps you sharp into your little rendering skills, which sometimes one can get kind of out of touch with. I just want to make sure that my little cube coming off the page is going well. And then there's this wonderful, really coming up straight through here and up, wonderful little kind of cap thing. This is her perfume. And honestly, I love this because this was such a very dark, gothic, romantic piece. Right? Very gothic and romantic. And so it lent itself a lot to things that I like. It is super hard, I'm going to tell you guys right now, to work flat, as I know many of you do. You should just know flat is the hardest way to work. I have a camera, so every once in a while I can check what I'm doing in the camera and use my camera almost like a mirror for what I've got going on. Now that John has the really good overhead, it's been actually kind of okay.
Yeah.
So there's this great little scoopy out for the decanter. I love the metal in this. The metal in this is like really one of the things that gave me a real itch to do it, because this is going to be the funnest part for me right here. You're like, why is that weird bottom of the base going to be fun? Because this is what's going to make it look really realistic and romantic. This is just when you paint it, it's going to look amazing. This is going to be pretty awesome. This is going to be really cool, and this will be. And I know everybody's excited about the peonies, but honestly, there's flowers. They'll come in okay. I think I've made my little bottle a lot bigger here.
It's a good looking bottle.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think I got a little excited about making a bottle. Let's curve that out here. That's another problem about drawing flat, is it's a little tough to track scale. I don't think it's too big of a deal for me because the bottle will be nice counterbalance. That's a weird side there. It's not wanting to go there because there's a bit of a wet spot right there. Why it's fighting. It's fighting. Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to. That's why you work at a tilted surface. John's going to get me one.
Yep.
Soon here, so that I don't have to work so flat, but it'll look flat for you, but be tilted for me, because this is just its own journey. So I have to tell you, every time I have to work at a weird angle, which I've had to do since I've been on YouTube, it has helped me strengthen my art skills a little bit. Just my core skills. Hey, my thing went away.
Sorry.
Okay. So we have a bottle here. I like that. Kind of a nice thing. And we're going to say that there's definitely a flower here. Got a little flower kind of coming off the side. These are going to end up being way more focal. Let's draw the vase, otherwise it's going to get away from me super bad. Okay, I'm going to have a shell here, starfish thing here.
Oh.
What?
So we got a good couple questions.
Ask away.
So, is our art studio in our house?
Yes.
Now, that's a kind of badly kept secret. And so...
I mean, the kids are here screaming. It's a clue.
Yeah. So what we'll say is that, you guys, your patrons, you kind of watch what's going on here. We tend to be a bit more vigilant about commenting about our family stuff.
Well, we
Especially on
got
the
doxxed so badly recently,
Yeah.
which is where somebody starts to release what they think is your private information to other people.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of times you'll see us, and our moderators especially, will intrinsically just remove any questions that have to do with our personal life. And because in general, even if the question's already been answered, like where do we live, we tend to avoid answering that just because it's not always relevant to what we're teaching.
Well, and also because some creepy people doxed us.
Yeah, and because there are creepy people in the world. Creepy people.
And let me tell you how much I did not see the people that went after me. I constantly answered their art questions. They won things from me. Like, I could not have been more floored that there was a problem if you'd like come and told me aliens invaded like downtown Vancouver. I was so shocked at what happened. It was just blown away.
So Amanda was asking, "Where's your books?"
Oh gosh, Amanda.
So I have an answer for that.
Yeah, John's going to give you the straight skinny on that.
So,
because you're patrons, so you get all the straight skinny. If you guys didn't know this, if you're new here, we give the patrons all the straight skinny.
In the studio, right here near you, is a pile of boxes filled with the 13 days of Halloween goodies. Now, behind that sits all the materials to start packaging books and printing books and putting together book kits. But before I could get to that, I had to get this other pile of stuff out of the way, which I'm doing pretty good. I got a big old pile of boxes today. So, as you know, we have a lot of partners. Well, you should tell them what you're doing. I'm talking away.
So I'm sketching right now. I'm kind of going through and sketching it. I'm just trying to, this is blocking. I'm trying to think about where objects are in the space. I can always come in as I'm painting and clean it up and refine more of it. But I find that if I can just spend this time arranging objects where I would want them to be, and I may change their scale. I might play with how they exist in the space based on what I want it to be. And also because I'm just sort of freehanding. Freehanding the stuff. And there's so much like very, really, really in the deep value scale in this piece that it's kind of fun to work with. And you can see I use my finger to like erase lines when I'm like, no, not you. And then things like, wait, what? I'm going to just say for the moment, because this box is very complicated and I want to zoom in on it. So what's going to happen is this space is going to shorten. This is going to become bigger because honestly, these pine cones read weird. Right? So sometimes things are fantastic in a photograph and will be strange, crazy in a painting. And you will start to make adjustments as you're painting to edit that out. Because what will happen is you paint these weird little pine cones. Because you're not going to be painting hyper-realistic, they're going to look like weird little smudgy things. And people are going to like, is that eyes in the background? What is that? What is that? What is that? And I don't want you to go through that. I don't want me to go through that. So we say no to that. But that's a lot of big black space, which means I got to bring this thing up. And I got to shorten this space because that's just too much space on my round canvas if I want the peonies to be the focal object that they're going to be. And this little weird silver box, I do like, and I do like the glass, but they've got to come kind of together. So I'm going to blow these up before I get these in. I just wanted to get this sort of general sketch going about what's happening in the painting. Yeah, so we had gone to do the book and have it, and it was supposed to be out like early in April, and then COVID happened, and then
Amazon happened.
Yeah, Amazon happened to us hardcore, so that plan just got completely crushed.
We can't disclose Secret Project 438, but what I will say is that it's coming along quite well as a replacement for Amazon.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we were like, how can we replace this Amazon solution? Okay, we can publish our own books.
We can do that. That's doable.
That's doable.
And the next thing you'll hear about soon. It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
It's our
You're pretty cool, sir.
newest website improvement. But yeah, website stuff. We told you we have been investing many of our earthling dollars,
like all our dollars,
in this thing called web development. And
all right.
It requires many dollars.
Can you get a screenshot of this, John, or
go?
Yeah. I don't know if you do it live or not.
With your mind.
Well, because I want them to have this line drawing because they're going to ask for it, and then I can upload like what I have today so they can have the same thing I have.
You just rewind to 1720. No. 31, maybe it was 30, 39, somewhere in there. 30, 39. Yeah, that's probably where it was.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. You gonna be like that?
That's where it was. I took another one there.
Did you?
Just with my mind.
I'm looking at the wrong camera because that one's dead. You're dead. You're dead to me, you bad camera.
It's
you bad camera.
That's good camera. That's old RoboCam.
I'm gonna put out some phthalo blue.
That's almost an antique.
I'm gonna put out. I think I have a lot of blackout, but I'm also gonna put out a small amount of quinacridone magenta.
I'm not saying it's a 90-year-old R2 unit that's been cruising around the universe saving people, but
I know you're not saying that.
It's been a good camera.
It's been a good camera. So I'm thinking about working on this bit here because that'll be relaxing, and I'm catching the little colors that I see in it, and I'll put those out so I can kind of get them in the painting, and then I'll go over what those colors are with you guys, and then we'll paint it in. We'll see if we can't get a good chunk of this done today because we got a little bit of a late start. But hey, stuff happens when you're in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
It just does, and just you're going along and you're doing what you can do, but then the things, they happen. I'm going to stick these around the palette, and I'll make sure that my little head, I don't need that. This one is like, I have some paint left.
I can shrink you if we need to.
Shrink me if you need to. That would be so lovely. I've got the gesso white, but I may still put out tube white because gesso white can be chalky and hard on your brush. So I may put out some tube white. And then I'm going to go over what I've got out here.
Go over it.
Yeah, I'm going to go over it and tell people what it is because I don't want them to guess. They didn't come into the guessing show. Guess what I'm painting and how I'm doing it. Oh, wait, that's all those videos with music. Guess. I don't guess, I know. All right. So let's work on our little bottle here. And I'm going to look at it upright just to kind of make sure that any of this makes any sense. And it is important every once in a while to position. Another thing that you can do, if you have to have it be flat, you can take a picture in your phone and then evaluate it then. And sometimes it's nice to go over it with a digital drawing app to make any of the changes that you would want to make. If you wanted to make changes. And I'm actually already making some changes.
Some changes?
Yeah. Having a weird day. Our camera thing. That's what it was.
Did it mess with you?
It did a little bit. It did a touch. Just a touch, though. It's okay. Put this somewhere where I can see it, my friends. All right. You're talking Paul Rubens anyways. I'm going to get a little of my black. And I'm going to come in here and just kind of clean up some of this because it got a little crazy. And we're going to start to paint the things that we are seeing here. So we've got zinc white, phthalo blue, yellow ochre, quinacridone magenta, phthalo green, burnt sienna, and regular titanium white. Over here is Mars black, which we started out with. and we still have our gesso. And actually, maybe let's just do a round so we have control over what we've got going on. So I'll grab my number 4 Art Sherpa round. Remember, guys, to check your dashboards under your projecting thing, where like your group lives are kept, because that's where the contest entry is. No, wait, no, you guys are winning a painting. The contest entry for a brush is on the block. I don't even know where I have contest entries anymore, John. I'm going to take a little bit of my black and blue together because I think they make a lovely combo.
They do.
And I'm going to get a little bit of my zinc. Make sure I've got some flow. And I'm going to start just doing what I got to do to paint this in. This is a very dark color. And the values are super deep. But you want that.
Let's see here.
That's where the drama of this particular piece comes from. I'm going to bring this down the side.
I'm going to...
I need to push this up forward?
No, you're fine.
Or to the side? What do I need? Oh, you're going to zoom in. This is what's exciting about this month's Patron thing is we have the zoom now so you can see all of the stuff that I'm doing. And I'm very fond of all the stuff that I'm doing. So when you're painting glass, and I say this a lot, I know it probably seems like, gosh, she's always saying that. I am always saying it. Painting glass is like really painting anything that you would paint. You don't paint what you don't see. You don't paint the clear part of the glass. You paint all of the light that is reflecting and present in the glass. Now I've got this weird thing here I've got to think about. So I'm going to just work this for a second. Up the side of the wall here is some very nice shiny reflective metal. So we'll put this down here. I love shiny metals. Shiny metals are always fun to paint. To just, again, I'm working in the dark values using my zinc so that I can do little hue changes. I'm changing or lightening or revealing just in a small way, right? But it doesn't substantively change the color that it is. It is a little hard sometimes to paint over chalk, I think. This is the cement set stage for John. Like, oh.
What brand of paint are you using tonight?
I'm using, okay, so I really love Golden. I love Holbein. I love Sennelier. I do like M. Graham. I've got a little list of paints. PBO I really like, but I've got my main, today I've got Holbein, Golden, and Sennelier. Mostly Sennelier. So here's some inside kind of baseball. My favorite quinacridone is either Holbein or Golden's. I kind of vacillate between those two. That's my favorite. I think that paint brands aren't good at all colors. Is the thing. Like, I don't really like Golden's primaries that much. You know, what you find as an artist as you're going, you'll be like, I really like this one thing, but I don't like all the things.
Yeah.
The chalk is really helpful to create the anchor into this particular part of the painting, I think. I'm going to go up to the capser. I'm very much looking forward to getting that neat kind of rainbow iridescent thing happening at the top. We're going to go for a little bit today and get some work in because we got behind. Yes, we did. A little bit, didn't we?
A little bit.
A little bit. And so we're catching up. And come in and add a little blue there. I'm just picking out some dark values and some things. Now there's some interesting stuff happening on this, and I'm going to get just a little of my zinc out just so I can see, and I'm going to work on this. So from here, right, coming back is actually this other sort of side wall. And then this shows coming forward and then across. So I've got to make sure that I get that part of the perspective in. So it's kind of like the flux capacitor of Doc Brown's DeLorean.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that? Flux capacitor.
Yep.
For some of you are like, I can see it. It is. The other thing that we have here is right about here, we have kind of like a little round shape. And so I'm going to just definitely do the little etching space coming out. Just the zinc. This is going to help kind of bring the basis of this down. And what's interesting is there's clear liquid in here. Because, you know, we wouldn't want anything that was like remotely easy to deal with. Like a colored liquid. No. Because this photographer had like this plan in mind. I'm going to come in and maybe get a little bit of my titanium white.
Yep.
And again, I'm just hatching the shapes. Make up these reflections. That we're constantly trying to get into the bottle.
Now, where's the light source for this going to be coming from?
Well, the photographer, I always wondered like why people are asking that question. Because a lot of times you don't be too literal about a light source. A lot of times people think about light sources as a single light that lights things, and then you can very easily, like a ball, say this is the highlight, and then it gets darker and darker. But then there's also reflected light, which you kind of see happening here. Photographers sometimes will light from two different directions just to make your life completely miserable. So instead, right, then worrying about like where do we, and you can look at reflection sometimes to guess where lights are, you know, in the reflective things. But I would say what's more important is start looking for where the hottest parts of the piece are. Where is the greatest highlight, and how are objects behaving as they travel away? Like we can be pretty sure that the focus of the brightest area of light is right here. Now we know some of it is catching here, right? And we've lit some things to illuminate that. Also, this image was digitally manipulated, not by me, but by the photographer, to diminish the lighting of objects in the back. So in a sense, it's a fantasy light source. Sometimes you'll see that in space photography, where they like, you can see the whole galaxy on this horizon where you can also see all the rocks. No, you cannot see all those things at the same time. You see one of those things, not three of those things. This is like this. For these things, for this object to be lit this well, you would see the pine cones. But they definitely dimmed those. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you have anything you see with your little lighting eye, your camera eye, John?
I think it's in these things, it's kind of like a still life. Oh, man. It's hard. Light sources, especially in paintings, there's a gap between implied and aesthetically pleasing and the attempt to be photorealistic. And if you stray too close to trying to be photorealistic without successfully, like if you make any major flaws in that, they stand out horribly. So it's sometimes more forgiving to give a painterly impression.
Well, I don't know. That's more like art advice. I mean, like in the lighting of the photo.
What do you mean?
Well, you're suggesting an aesthetic choice in relationship to the photo to paint a still life.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, what does your photographer's eye, right, see in the lighting of that piece? Because they were saying, how is it lit? Where are the light sources?
Well, again, on this, I'd have to really look at the reference photo to make sure it wasn't shopped.
It was totally shopped, by the way.
Okay, and that's the problem, is that like a lot of these are photoshopped, and they're using what's called HDR cameras, high dynamic range, which has to do with they can see brighter and darker.
I'm going to add some dark line right here. So we're highlighting that corner and adding dark.
Yeah. So photos aren't true to what we can see all the time. So
almost any more at all in my mind.
I just have to, I don't even know on that one. I'd have to look closer at it.
Yeah. You know what? I'll have him look at the original source photo digitally, because like my print is kind of And I think he will come in, because a lot of times he'll come in when I'm looking at references, and he's like, what the heck was that photographer doing? I'm like, I don't know. Being creative.
Mm-hmm.
He creatively felt he saw a horizon and he went for it. I was like, but those are 2 different times a day. I'm like, yeah, I know. 2 different times a day. But a lot of times that's how they do that. I mean, it's big business photography, right? And it's also a complete art form. So you've got to think about that as well. The art form of photography. And I'm going to come here just temporarily, and I'm going to add a little bit of this lighter value, because as I pull some of this paint away, some of the chalk away, I'm going to want to still be able to see this. So what I would say in relationship to how you paint the still life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't avoid being photorealistic because you're worried that, if you make a mistake, it's going to stand out, right? Because there's skills and things that you develop from that photorealism. And honestly, I think you can get away with more in painting than a lot of people think. I do. I really do. I see a lot of stuff go over and be like really okay in an unexpected way. There we go. And the reason I'm not reading comments, guys, and I'm counting on John to do it, is because I've got my reference over my device.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's look at that overhead for just a second as we're painting that in. Right? So we're getting this. There we go.
So what is our agenda on this?
What do you mean?
But I don't know how far we're going to paint tonight.
A little bit longer. We got started late, so.
No, I was just curious. I've been watching our little timer thingy, so I was curious.
Yeah. No, because we've got to get it done by the end of the month. So we have to get enough work done for a finished painting to happen by the end of the month. And that's something to think about when you're doing projects, especially if you're under a timeline. You have to set in your mind mentally how long you have to spend with a piece to complete it or resolve it in some kind of a time. So like on this one, yeah, it's a bummer to get started late, but we've got to stay in long enough to get this far long enough that we're not behind.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
Unless there's an emergency, we need to be somewhere and you're trying to hit at me and I'm not picking up on it.
No, I was just curious as we were getting closer to the 1 hour mark, where you were wanting to.
Well, the prep was getting the canvas ready was a long process.
Mm-hmm. It's no problem. Just curious where we're. I don't know what we should do.
I guess I'm not caught up on the chat.
No, you're pretty much there.
Oh, okay.
Everyone's just kind of watching along.
Watching along? There we go. Just kind of cleaning up. And I'm sure I'll be making adjustments on this bottle as I go to kind of refine it and, change those elements that attracted me to it in the first place, even. back into this. I also put out a lot of paint that I should probably use. Here we go. I'm just adding a little more highlight. I'm using the zinc more than the titanium white. I want to reserve the titanium white for where there are big elements or big pops or huge events kind of going on. I'm going to get into a little bit of my yellow ochre. And it's okay if let's take a little of your kind of burnt umber and burnt sienna and phthalo green and yellow ochre. And we're starting to come here. We just kind of want a yellow green kind of thing. We're going to paint the metal. When we're painting the metal, what are we painting? We're painting the reflection. Is everything okay with the equipment?
Yeah.
Coming here yellow. One of the things that throws me is when people are like, how long is this going to be? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. It really throws me. Because sometimes you're in this space in your painting and you're right now like trying to work out what it's going to be and trying to like focus on them, add a little more yellow ochre, and I think I'll pull that reflection away. Yeah. I want it back more up there as we're going. There we go. Just continue. Kind of hit those reflections. Into the blue. Come in here. I love zinc or mixing white or, whatever you would normally refer to it as, because I feel like it lets me do pops of color in a subtle way. Not that I paint subtly. Not that I'm in any way a subtle painter. Now, a lot of times when you just add any kind of white to phthalo blue, was everything okay, babe? Oh, was it TVs?
I got it.
And continue to add some green here. Come right up. We also got attacked by wasps today. That was pretty intense. The wasp attacking was like, whoa.
We're doing some minor renovations. So there's some open ceiling.
And they're like, we would like to come inside and just visit you real quick. And we were like, no visit.
And it was really strange because we went from having none, and today we had like 10. They just all came in all at once.
Yeah, like I was working on your patron stuff, and John's like, don't move, there are bees. And I looked up and there were all these bees. I was so lucky to not be stung, you have no idea.
We were just like, where did the bees come from?
All right, adding a little highlight. Are you guys seeing that?
Uh-huh.
Right? BJ Gardner asked where the light source is in the painting. Let's look at that more. I want John to look, BJ, at the reference photo.
Yep.
Because he does a lot of photography. Because I think the feedback of...
You see it while you're sitting there?
Yeah, you can see it while I'm messing here. A lot of the feedback that we would give you, right? It's important for you guys to start to see when an image has been manipulated past its natural light.
Okay. This one's got a soft so this has got a softbox light right on the front of it. And you can see because it's creating shadow. It's a single source light in a flash.
Okay.
And you can see because it's creating shadow lines on all the petals.
Okay.
And they're all lit from the upper right-hand side coming down. You can see the highlight here on the top of the conch shell. And you can see the reflection on the top front here of this right here.
I feel like they pushed those weird pine cones back. Look at that, though. I feel like that was like pushed back.
Oh, hands in here so I can.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Hands in. He's on a cord, so he almost just choked himself. I'm gonna have to probably fix this line right here.
Okay. So here we go. I'm gonna do.
You can't really see in the picture. You can't see the.
Zoom in.
Okay. There we go.
So this is not focused well, so let me see if I can focus a little bit better.
To show these weird pine cones, which I didn't think you can kind of see their bumps.
I don't know if I can pump the camera up a little bit.
Catch it. Maybe it needs to be the side zoom.
That's what we can do for right now. My focus.
We just put a reference photo in Paint.
Oops. Okay.
Wait, let me get that. Let me get it.
I was going to fix it. You're right there.
That's fine.
Okay.
I missed the painting, so.
It's all right.
All through the paint, this went.
Sorry. So we'll go up here, just kind of like this. So, here's the horizontal version of it. So you can see, as we come over here, what I'm going to set down and say. You can see, especially from this flower, and this flower, and this flower, that what they used was a big soft light. And I'm going to widen this out so you can see it on the full screen. So what it was is they used a big soft light that was kind of probably sitting way up here over the top of this, and it boof. And
how did they? I feel like they pushed this back. I feel like this lit and then they darkened it.
Well,
like
sort
especially digitally manipulated through this edge.
Probably what they did is that they used a really bright light with a really small aperture. So that you would lose a lot of this background, so it would fall off real fast. So only this really bright lit foreground stuff would show up along with this specular highlight here on the shell.
I love that specular highlight on the shell.
And you can see some here, and here. You can see, and maybe a little bit in here if you've got a complex. You can see the reflected light. Yeah. But up here on this flower, you can see how the shadow disappears behind it, which means that that flash had to be kind of level with it. But over here, you can see how the light tucks just underneath that leaf a little bit, but leaves that backlit. So it's not enough. There's not enough shadow from here on that flower. So there's some light creep in between these two. So that light's got to be floating, just about dead even with the top of those flowers. Pointed kind of down, and it's going to be really bright.
We should do a still life that John lights sometime. We should, but something simple like pears that we can be in and out of in a minute. Right? Something simple like pears.
Oh, I have to zoom back out now. I was super zoomed in. Look at that. I messed that whole thing up.
You didn't mess that up.
Zoom. I have to go wide.
I'm going to just kind of I'll look at this for just a second because I just want this to be maybe just a little bit wider than what I have. Squared up maybe some more. If that makes sense. I'm going to get into my white here. Got blue on my brush, which is helpful because it gets picked up and everything, and then I can get into just even the zinc over here and come in and start this highlight. The highlights have soft areas and these sort of darker areas, and I want to make sure that I catch those where I can. Catching where this is here. You gotta, in some way, just trust the lighting, trust the reflection, right? Because sometimes when you're going, you're like, that makes no sense. How is that? Make it small, break it down, and trust the reflection. Remember, you can always glaze something back into it. Oh, and then everyone's like, oh, BJ says, thank you. Oh, BJ says the discussion is helpful because they can't see the reference photo while watching the video. And sure enough, Brian says her husband got stung by 18 yellow jackets once while on a riding mower. He was too close to the nest and got attacked. That is so scary. That is not fun. Not fun at all. And then Patty Hoffman says bees, wasps, or killer hornets. Apparently the killer hornets, like, I don't know, went away. They haven't seen any more. So I don't know what's up with killer hornets. Like, they came, they saw, and they went, yeah, it's a hot mess over here. Let's not do that. I'm going to add a little green into this, because I do see a bit of green in some of these reflections here in what's going on. And I think that's kind of fun to kind of pick up and play with. So I'm going to grab some of my zinc. Yeah, and then just playing with that. I love this here. There's an interesting sort of angular event going on that's interesting to play with. And again, it's just about coming through and going, what can I... Sometimes it's nice to mix zinc and titanium white, kind of make a mixing white. Come here on the toe of my brush, just tapping out a little bit. And then on the edge, the toe here coming down. It's fun to bring some of the green into it. And I know we've been here a minute, but we're just getting caught up. It's really just about getting caught up and getting far enough into the painting that you can complete it, which is often the goal. There's a really fun sort of over the shoulder reflection that's going to happen kind of like here.
So there's a good question.
I have a good answer.
So Kelly would like to know, I struggle between knowing when to use zinc white and titanium white.
So zinc white I use when I want to subtly shift or lighten the hue that I'm using. That's the color I'm using by one shade. So when you look at the phthalo blue here and you put a little zinc white and phthalo blue together, right? It's still distinctly phthalo blue, but it's a shade white. But when you do that with the titanium white, it's much more opaque, and it substantively changes the color. So when I really want a strong color change, when I want it to be very opaque and very noticeable in the piece, then I tend to get into the titanium white. When I want it to be a subtle discussion of color, then I stick with the zinc. So like glass, a lot of times I'll be in glass, most of it into the, because a lot of that is still in shadow, right? So we just barely see that. And again, this too, as well. This is almost visible only by highlights. And you can always come in and find your shadows in that. I'm going to come in and get a little more of my yellow ochre. So like if I want to add a little zinc to the yellow ochre, you can see it doesn't really change it that much. It does make it a bit transparent. That's okay. I'm going to bring some of this color down here. There's an interesting kind of bowed reflection that's here. And one that comes in curves here. That's a nice one to catch. So let's look at it from the top and see where we're at, like so far in our journey.
Does zinc slow down the drying process?
So in oil painting, zinc is very impactful as a pigment. It crazes over time. That's the craquelure. I can never say this word. Craquelure that you see in oil painting. And that's something that happens. It's the way it's rigid in the oil paint. It becomes too stiff and inflexible for the canvas. All of the studies coming back from anyone that's participating in the ASTM study of it says that in acrylic, that's not such a big deal for us.
So it's really interesting because zinc white is a metal.
Yes.
So what actually is kind of happening on a chemical level there is really kind of interesting.
Yeah?
But,
tell us about it. I'm going to paint a bunch of it all around this little cap.
In acrylic, you're encapsulating your pigment in an acrylic binder.
Yep.
And so it, by its very nature, has a flexible nature to it. Whereas in oil, as the oils are fugitive and they leaving the pigment, i.e. the metal, to just form layer upon layer upon layer of metal, that's not going to have any flexibility to it. That's where you get the cracking. So, and the crazing. So it's kind of an interesting byproduct of acrylic as it's sort of flexible in nature and plasticky.
And it is really kind of its superpower.
It also, I mean,
is its greatest weakness?
Well, you could argue that it's easier to get, easier. Getting anything into a proper emulsion blend is not easy, but acrylics might be less difficult than other binding mediums because it is a modern chemical compound. I mean, you can do things to it to make it more what you want.
True.
Whereas like tree sap is tree sap.
Tree sap is tree sap. Some blue here to the sap. That's your deep wisdom there, tree sap. Well, tree sap be tree sap, my friend. I mean, tree sap be tree sap.
If you're using walnut oil, I'm
getting into the titanium white for strong pops of white.
That's millions of years of that tree, that oil is that oil. It's not,
Tapping the brush up and down. You keep talking, I'm just narrating as I go while you're talking. I'm adding these little, just bigger pops of white and things that are talking about the shaping or maybe the cut of some of this. You keep going though, babe. Oh, no, I'm just low grade. I'm low grade narrating.
Acrylics just, they have benefited from the last 200 to 500 years of industrialization, depending on how you look at it.
So Patron behind the scenes talk. What has happened to John and I on this art journey is we have partnered with manufacturers and we have talked with different companies that we love. And we still have great relationships with companies that we love. But we have come more and more to the conclusion that there's more to know here.
Right.
And so we decided, let's look into how you make brushes, how you make paint, how you make these products, how the stuff is created.
Yeah, you want some, like when it comes down to it, there's not a whole lot to put acrylic and pigment together to make paint. But to do it right, and when I say to do it right, what I mean is to get a particle of pigment surrounded by binder such
without it going that weird matte.
Yeah. And to do that in the proper amounts so that you get the proper colors and things, man, that is some super, super science. And
it is. And the acrylic polymer emulsions are no joke. Like, they don't just have a couple of things in them. They're not some weird, fluidy, pure, nearly from nature, but not quite emulsion. This stuff has some junk in it,
yeah.
Which is why I often will discourage people from certain kinds of additive.
So, right? Yeah, when it comes to paint science, some of these older companies that have been around for a while, they have some knowledge, and it's profound.
But that's how we got into it, is we were looking into what's going on with how this paint is made. Why is some of this not working? Why is our industry not moving forward as much as maybe, say, other industries do? That's a question I really had.
It's a very old industry.
On so many levels, y'all don't know.
It's just...
We're the young bucks.
Yeah.
We're in the youth mixer.
She's not even
kidding. No, I'm not kidding.
No, anyway, so it's a cool, what I would say is that
I'm doing a little reflection here where we're going into I'm going to exaggerate it. I won't lie. I'm going to exaggerate the reflection.
Art supplies seem to be made up of two kinds of folk. Those that are here because they love it.
An acronym.
And those are here because they want to make a buck.
And they haven't learned yet you can't make a buck in art.
Well, no, I don't even know that I agree with that. I think that
really?
I think that you can, via Amazon and there's a lot of companies out there that just spam creators with materials, and because the materials are free, the creators use them.
Right, and give them away.
And then all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of people using really not great product because it was given away
stuff,
for free.
Right? And yeah, if you're a professional artist, like I can make coffee work.
Yeah.
Right? I can make some terrible paint products work because I have a lot of experience and I know so many tricks. But if I were a student, I would just assume I was unable to paint and that I had really, really made bad decisions with my day.
But, like Sennelier is one of the oldest pigment houses in Europe, and Golden is, by and large, considered the godfather of modern acrylic paint. And so
I'm going to get some of this gesso.
These are places of deep knowledge that we've had the blessed opportunity to work with and learn a lot.
And they're all amazing.
Yes, they are. Oh, Holbein. We've had a chance to sit down with the Holbein team.
We haven't gotten to go to Japan, though, and really see what Holbein's deal is, though.
I would love to see more about that.
Like, I know Holbein US is pretty cool with us. I have no idea what Holbein Japan thinks, because people in the art industry are either they love us because they get what we're about. Because what we're about is getting new people every day excited about art, giving them a good, safe foundation, a good practical art education. I'm going to go white here into some of these hot reflections, right? Like that good, practical art education. And it's called, in art world, it's called never before painted, right? Because that's the conversion. It's like talking somebody who isn't painting into painting. And so people like Mark Golden and Pierre from Savoir Faire and certain art companies get how awesome this is, because we need new artists all the time, and we don't just need the ones coming from art school. We need new people creating. The next great artist might not be from art school. Probably, very good chance, not at all, given past history. And, they might be, but there's a lot of different paths. And so getting more and more people every day excited about art not only keeps them in business, which they do like, but it also gives us a brighter future as an industry and also as a species. But other people in the art world are a little bit stodgy, and they don't, I don't know, I guess I call it hold a deep and profound respect for the beginner. Sure, we can all love the artist that's put in 10,000 hours and become amazing. That's awesome, right? But it's also not unexpected, because if you put in 10,000 hours and you had some aptitude when you began, probably some amazing art will come out. But to never have painted before, I'm on such a soapbox right now, to never have painted before and to pick up a brush, not knowing how it's going to work out, not knowing if you're going to be ridiculed, not knowing what the outcome is going to be, and just trust an online tutorial or a book or a class, and to give it a go and not give up when it gets hard, that to me is true grit. Like, it's not true grit when I start a painting, because even if it starts to go wrong, I know I can work it out. Right? For me, true grit is like doing 20 paintings a day. That's when I'm in my true grit space. Right? But for other people, like to me, that honoring the beginner. Some places don't honor the beginner. And so they don't really respect what I do. If that makes sense. Now that I monologue like a villain, I have to reload my brush because it all dried on there.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I let it dry. I let it dry. Gotta pop that color a bit. Like I can kind of see it, but it's not as bright as I would like. You know?
Mm-hmm.
We're not done with this. We have lots of work on this to do. We're actually just kind of making some headway. We're just finally getting someplace. I'm sorry, guys. It's just a journey. Also, I kind of am wary of companies that avoid me, like the plague. Like maybe they don't sell me their new cadmium-free product, trying to hide it from me, so I have to make a dummy account and order it and pretend not to be me. That worries me. That worries me a great deal. Like, what are you up to? These little fine highlights, they're a big thing for what makes your metal look like metal.
Mm.
Having those little pops and big, like, because you've got to get there. I'm going to get some, I like the gesso actually for this, weirdly. Put some of these hot spots in your metal. So see as you go, let's back up and see how we're doing. There's still a bunch more to do here. So we're starting to get there. I like the cap still looks super awkward. Give me a second. It could be the chalk making it awkward. And again, sometimes you've just got to get a better view of what you're doing. What I'm doing now is kind of creating a white line so I can really see what I've got going on. And then I'll go back with some black and clean that up because that cap felt like it was just not, it was not on point, John.
Mm.
Now I will kind of try to trim that in because I really don't want big, thick white lines. I'm going to come here. I know that makes your life harder, but easier for me. Also, sometimes rotating it helps me see it from a variety of angles and lets me find its little space. Oh, that's a little bit better. Getting there. It's getting there, sir.
All right.
Just coming there and working it out. I'm tired. Are you tired?
Oh, I'm hanging in here.
There we go. Getting that dark value up top. A big deal. I'm going to come right here. Because there's this gorgeous, really big reflection right here. Interesting one right there that I want to catch. I like catching those. We'll go a little bit longer and then we'll stop.
All right.
And then we'll meet back up again next Thursday. Hopefully with cameras that listen to us and don't behave badly. I really want to put some pink in this glass. Just do. I'm gonna. Just feel like it needs to be there in a couple places, like right here. Just a little bit of it. Maybe coming down. You gotta see what it's got going on so you can. Those values worked out. That's looking good.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Whenever you're working on something, there's always more to see. Add some little defined highlights right here. There we go. Picking up some reflections, some strong, thoughtful reflections there. Now there's this wild wild kind of like infinite reflection down here, which I've got to be careful with because it can pull everything off. Up there. These are much stronger right here. See how that's looking. So it's always good to back away and see how it's going. Right? You always want to back away and be like, how is that going? Is that working out? Do we like how it's working out? If we don't, what do we want to do about that? Make a nice little round circle there. This is definitely one of the more complicated pieces. You know, it's not one where you just like whip through and go, good, good, good. And be like completely done in 2 seconds. There's this really interesting corner here. I want to catch if I can. And then remember to put this up, if you guys can do me the favor as you're working on these, when you're between painting sessions, put this on an easel, put this on a mantle, put this in a room where you can stand across and stare at it. That way, what will happen is as the week is going on, little things will start to stand out to you that you will want to fix or change or define or refine when you come back into that painting session. So very hot little highlight coming down here.
Now, is painting on wood very different from painting on canvas?
It has very little spring. So sometimes if you have been only painting on canvas, it can be a little fatiguing because it doesn't give you that energy back. It's a very confident surface. So as you're working it, you will really, you'll feel like you really know where you are in the painting. That's too much paint on that toe. I'm going to go like this. I know I'm painting with gesso. So like sometimes when you're painting on certain surfaces, it's not clear where you are, how much pressure you need, what's going on. But on wood, on a firm surface, on a masonite board, you know. You definitely know. I get some zinc here, you know, and so that would be a big difference. I actually very much like painting on wood, personally. I do. And we're going to have, again, we'll get the easel and everything. I'm not sure when our easel is going to get back up. We have so much happening and we've got to move so much stuff around. But we will get her going again super soon. I wish I could tell you that we were going to be completely finished with the bottle by the time we stop tonight, but we will not. But We'll be far enough along that we'll be resolving that and then moving on to something else in the painting for the next session.
All right.
You know, where you can kind of see it. There we go. But it's starting to come together.
Yeah.
It is. Starting to come together. And it's about finding those little spaces in there. I'll probably want to like trim that line down and maybe move these a little closer together and refine that edge and edge coming up, and probably come in with some black and blue and kind of cool this around here. Also, some of this will do better as the other objects around it are put into play. These deep shadow objects with small reflections, they're an interesting challenge to paint. And so I'm really looking forward to getting into this. I hope you enjoyed your first Patron big power painting. These are big projects and they teach a lot of techniques, but I think that you'll get a lot out of them, both conceptually about the process of working as an artist, the types of things we think of and what we go into, and also technique-wise about how we face challenges and finish things and resolve things, and even like wonderful lectures from John on how a photograph might be lit. When we get mostly set up, when we're all the way set up, he's going to set up a still life box for us. So we'll have like a camera on a still life we can paint. Won't that be cool?
Yeah.
And then you guys can like access that camera still life and paint on it when we're not there. It'll be kind of cool, like a still life stream. But this is down the road, but stuff that you're contributing to. So thank you very much. Is paint okay? So yeah, I saw that, and you guys are so quiet. Tina Louise says it's awesome and she's loving it. And I really appreciate everyone who stayed in, especially since it was a pretty long painting session. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you in an easel really soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.